This is Troy Allen with TechStream Solutions. And joining me today is Michael Wong, the Director of Sales for North America with LifeRay. And you are attending the TekTalk, a monthly webinar series that we do here from TechStream. And today we're going to be talking specifically about customer experience from Fizzle to Sizzle. So, Michael, if you wouldn't mind, maybe just give us a minute or two introduction about yourself and maybe a high level on LifeRay, and then I'll do the same.
Yes, absolutely. Hi, everyone. Thank you for your time today. We appreciate you joining us for this, joining our webinar. As Troy mentioned, I am the Director of Sales for North America. I've been with LifeRay for about 9 years now, so I've seen it grow from a company with about 150 employees to where it's at now with over 1,000. We are a global company in the digital experience space, which obviously speaks directly to customer experience. Our platform and technologies enable our customers to be able to build customer experiences with our tools that help them grow their businesses, delight their customers, engage with their customers, and we'll get into that a little bit more today. We hope you enjoyed the talk today, and of course, if anyone has any questions afterwards, please feel free to reach out to any of us.
Excellent. And as I mentioned, I'm Troy Allen, I'm VP of Emerging Technologies here at TechStream. And TechStream has been working in the digital transformation space for about 8 years, maybe a little bit more than that now, focusing on helping our customers bring sense to all the chaos around how you manage information and distribute that information not only to end users, to your business partners, to your employees, but quite often to other applications. And as part of digital transformation, there's an aspect of that which we call, the user experience or the customer experience. A more broader term for that would be the digital experience, and that's really how do we take that information and present it to the right people at the right time. And that's really where we're going to be focusing today. How do we take your customer experience engagement from Fizzle to Sizzle? And the main reason why we kind of use the Fizzle to Sizzle is, if you think back several years ago, people were all talking about portals and how they share that information, whether it's I want to access my account details, I want to look at my home mortgage, I want to look at my financial records, or maybe you've got children that are in school and you want to log in and see their grades. All of that kind of fell under that umbrella of portals several years ago. And the industry's kind of changed from portals because everybody had their own definition of a portal to what's now referred to as digital experience. So when organizations are looking at, if they bought a portal, whether it be Web Center portal, or if they, bought from another vendor, or maybe they had a legacy portal application that got acquired, they're quite often looking at how do they go to the next step. And looking back at it, the legacy portal applications, price for supporting those is just continuing to go up. And that's really involved around a couple of key points. One is they tend to be legacy on-premise applications. The suppliers for those have kind of lost focus because they realize that in order to maintain engagement with their customers and help their customers, they really need to be looking at more of a cloud-driven focus. Getting off of a traditional on-premise to help lower costs and so forth, move it to the cloud. But if you still have an on-premise portal, how do you get past that? What is your logical move? And quite often, a lot of organizations will say, well, cloud's our answer. Fantastic. How do you get there? You have a couple of offerings that you can do. One is you can take your legacy portal application, lift and shift, and move it to a cloud, but it's still the older legacy technology. It's just not running in your data center anymore. It's running in somebody's public cloud or a private cloud environment. Another key factor that a lot of organizations will say is, rather than doing a lift and shift, I really need to migrate. My existing portal application really doesn't supply the direction that I want to go, or does not provide capabilities that continue to excel my business in the eyes of my business partners or my customers or even my employees. And a lot of that is due to an unclear roadmap for a lot of legacy portal vendors. So you find yourself in a situation where you need to grow, you need to innovate to capture the market, but if the tools that you're using are not growing and innovating, there's a disconnect somewhere and it becomes difficult to meet those goals. Quite often with legacy portals, you really were put into a situation where you had a lot of different legacy coding. Some of the portal systems had their own language, others were pretty generic with what they could use, but it was still limited to a particular set or framework. Rather than a lot of the prominent digital experience, namely LifeRay, it gives you the flexibility to really use not just what's available today, what was available yesterday, but is built to support what's going to be the next generation of framework for tomorrow, so that your investment continues to grow with you. And quite frankly, we've seen a lot of organizations that had legacy portals. If you follow the Gartner and other such industry analysts, have gone from a leader to a challenger, or they're shifting backwards because of that lack of focus. And another aspect is portal technologies are all about the content. Content can come from many different places. It could be, traditional document management. It could be web content management. It could be unstructured content that, you need to push out to the appropriate people, and having a mechanism to be able to capture that content, display it as content sources are growing and changing becomes a critical aspect. So, when you think about where you are today, running on legacy portal, there's a lot of hurdles to really meet your goals and to drive your business to the next generation, which is why something like digital experience really comes into the mix. So, as we mentioned just a few moments ago, a lot of the industry analysts out there have kind of dropped the terminology of portal, because portals really have a new life. They have a much broader view and purpose with a lot more capabilities that they're bringing to the market. And so, as an example, we look at, where does LifeRay sit in the new digital experience platform Magic Quadrant, which is a recent, within the last couple of years, it's come about and the industry's recognized that. So, having that upper right-hand square is really important, in that the industry recognizes LifeRay as being not only leaders but visionaries within the industry. So, Michael, question for you guys. I mean, this is, really good news coming out of the Magic Quadrant. What would you attest, in your mind, to having that industry recognition, and why is that so important for our listeners?
Good question, Troy. LifeRay, just a little context here. We've actually are a leader in the 2019 Magic Quadrant as well. And we have been in the leadership quadrant now for 10 years running in Gartner. As Troy had alluded to, what used to be called portals, a terminology and nomenclature that is falling out of favor with the analysts, and has pivoted over to what we're now calling digital experience platforms. The legacy of LifeRay, where we sat in the Gartner Magic Quadrant, was in what they used to call the horizontal portals. So in many ways, one of the value props that LifeRay brings to the table is the ability to still have a lot of the portal technology that helps our customers and businesses break down silos, very easily integrate into their third-party back-end systems, help them drive their business in terms of preparing their business for whatever their digital transformation or digital engagement strategy might be. That's still existent in LifeRay. in many ways what we now call digital experience platforms, which takes the core portal functionality, the platform I just mentioned, things like authentication, permissioning, roles-based, creating sites, all of that core portal use cases, and takes it to the next level of being able to deliver contextualized content to the right person at the right time in the right context, as Troy mentioned. I think it's a big, huge, it's obviously an honor for us to be recognized by a company like Gartner. They're not the only analyst out there, but what we found about Gartner is their focus is really towards the B2B business, and that's the proposition that LifeRay makes. We're very glad to be part of the Magic Quadrant and continue to work with Gartner to continue to improve our product, our processes, where we stand. We take very seriously with where they see the market going. Obviously, Gartner speaks to a lot of their clients, and they have a lot of market intel that comes back to us that helps us drive and inform our roadmap, feature set, where we need to be, where we need to go. So it's all in all a very good relationship for us.
Excellent. Well, we've really been talking about that digital experience. I just want to kind of boil it down, and I think this is a testament to what the analysts are seeing and kind of why they're shifting away from the portal concept into digital experience. So, in legacy portals, you may have multiple systems to provide that holistic application or solution, where you may have different tools that make up for the interface, for the code, for security and integration, where really when people are talking about digital experience, you should be looking at a consolidated platform that provides all of the key functionality within the application itself. Legacy portals tend to be limited, with a starting point. And by that I mean you really had to build out everything versus a configuration. There really wasn't a jump start. There wasn't a lot that was provided for you to kind of install and hit the ground running, where when you take a look at digital experience, we are a society in the technology world that has grown so much that we anticipate a lot of common tasks to already be done for us. It's kind of like today we get upset if we sit in line at McDonald's or someplace like that for more than 30 seconds to get our hamburger, where 50 years ago a good hamburger, you would wait the 30 minutes for somebody to go and cook it and prepare it for you. So we want things now. We want things to be available that we can pick up and use, but we don't want the cheap hamburger. We want it to be now and ready to use, but that really rich, full, flavorful hamburger of yesteryear, if I could use a bad analogy there. And then lastly, in order to maintain and run legacy portal applications, it was a specialization. In order to fully utilize it, there was a lot of dependency on the vendor or specialized organizations to help you run it. And digital experience and our requirement as users and managers of the system is we need to be able to leverage knowledge that we already have in-house, skill sets that we already have. We want to kind of get away from the specialized niches. And digital experience really sets a precedent for us that everything should be in one platform. It should be feature rich, that we can really get the ground running with it, with examples and kind of a starting points, if you will, to start building out our solution and allow us to use tools and knowledge that we already have in our organization. And we'll talk a little bit more about this as we give some examples, but we've been saying digital experience a lot, and so let's take just a step back and let's define it. And the reality is, most people, when they think about digital experience, they're thinking about the interface. They're thinking about what people see on the screen. And in reality, digital experience and digital transformation, there's so much more that you have to think about behind the scenes. what's underneath the surface that most people don't know that's there. You need to be able to incorporate different business models and processes. Integration is critical because data comes from so many different sources and places. We have to be able to bring that in. And quite often, we may have services that have been written for other applications that we want to be able to consume and display through that top half of the screen there, that digital experience or interface. We want to make that accessible. So being able to integrate reusable services that we've done in other places become critical for our time to market. And again, the whole concept, we say customer here, customer is really who is engaged with the systems that you're putting together. Customer could be an employee, it could be traditional customer, as we might think about it, somebody who's paying for services or for things that we build. But it can also be business partners or prospects, people you want to hire. All of that is a customer of this experience that you're putting together. And to be successful with it, we've got to understand what's below the surface, and that a good digital experience tool is going to help you to engage all of those and bring them together for a consolidated view and experience. And when we look at LifeRate, it really epitomizes that seamless platform, allowing you to connect across the globe with teams of different information, resources, applications, being built from the ground up with the expectation that we're no longer in a silo. Information is no longer in a silo. It is across not only our organization, but it's across contact points beyond our walls that we need to be able to grab and share information. So having a seamless platform that provides the foundation and the tooling to maintain your security, your content, and integration points really becomes critical. As we kind of break that down a little bit, having the ability to transform your industry, your business, through creative problem solving really means that you need to be able to incorporate security and have that stable core platform that's going to grow with you. Being able to have formal crowdsourced content management, because just like information that you may be pulling from other systems, content's created across the board. And in days of yesterday, content creation and the generation of information was siloed. And now you map that with social and collaborative tools so that you can expand and make sure that you're getting that information, and more people have insights to it, which provides much better data and content that's being shared. Being able to customize it by IT when they need it, but having that managed by business. So a little bit of that separation of you build it, but allow me to manage it in a way that makes the most amount of sense for my business. And being able to build upon that so that I can go across mobile applications, PCs, tablets, or whatever the new device of tomorrow is going to be. I can think back to a time when we didn't even have cell phones. My son, has not seen a world where there were no cell phones. And, when he is my age, he's going to be in a situation where his son is in a world where nobody can remember not having product X, whatever that next generation is. So having that as part of your digital experience to grow really becomes important. And then also being able to build and animate workflows. You've got to have guidance. You need to have, points where others are not only collaborating but approving, making sure that that right information is going out at the right time, or there might be business processes that are controlling how information is shared. And then again, being able to secure it across the organization universally. So the digital experience at a high level is experiences that bring people to the center of all of this information. And all the key aspects of the tools that we just talked about become important in order to facilitate that. No matter who's using the system, they need to know that they are at the central hub of everything they need to do in order to conduct business with you, to do business within your organization, or to reach out to the world beyond to inform and bring them into your organization in some fashion. And that's really what customer experience, business experience, digital experience is all about. So if we kind of break this down, a lot of you already have a portal or a digital experience platform. You might be looking for a digital experience platform. You might be in process of putting one together. And when you're looking at this, there's a couple of things that we just wanted to bring out that are important, and a couple of quotes that really seem to make sense in this world today. A vision without strategy remains an illusion. And when I think about what it takes to actually stand up a digital experience, whether it's migrating from a legacy portal application or starting from scratch, you need to understand what is working and what's not working. Use that as kind of your starting point. From there, you can start to define a vision. What do you expect to accomplish at the end of the day? You know, what is going to drive your business? What is going to take what is working and make it even better, and what is not working and either do away with it or change its course so that it now becomes a working strategy for you. Based off of that, you can start to build a strategy that focuses on correcting those items that aren't working or improving what is, and also help you to evaluate what gaps do you have. So you may already know what's working for you, what's not working for you, but in order to achieve your business goals for this year or the next 3 or 5 years, you may quickly find out that there are certain things that are missing. And what do you need to do to close those gaps, whether it's technology or processes? Always start at the end before you begin. And this really attests to understanding what the end of the road is going to look like, or a mile marker, somewhere along the path that you're following. And in order to do that, take a look at how other people have succeeded. You don't have to recreate the wheel every time. And that also, falls into not just your business practices, but the technologies that you use in order to facilitate your business models. Seek guidance and best practices always along the course. And, Michael's going to be talking about some use cases, and hopefully, that will give you some view into how other people have had success and, maybe some of the best practices that they had. Match your technology to your goals, not the other way around. Don't go buy something and figure out how to make a goal just because you bought it. Make sure that you have an established goal, and the technology that you are going to put together is in complete support of achieving that goal. And it's a common thing that people tend to do. They decide, I need a digital experience platform, but don't really think about what that means or what the goal of it is at the end of the day. And they go buy something only to find maybe they bought the wrong tool. And then all along the way, you've got a huge amount of internal and external expertise at your fingertips. The people who are doing the work that are going to be using the system, they should have the input. Talk to other people who have worked with other organizations in order to find out what's working and not working, which kind of leads us to learn from others' mistakes so that you don't have to. So just a couple of thoughts there on what drives success when you're putting in a digital experience or you're upgrading from portal to digital experience. And, it really is about that experience. And when we take a look at this, you're usually going to have multiple people involved in site maintenance, whether it's marketing or communication, HR, IT, depending upon what those business goals that we just talked about are for your organization. And the user experience needs to be tailored so that the roles or the individuals that are working on the system, that their efforts are maximized and that the learning curve for them is extremely low. The worst thing that would kill a project is if I've got to spend 3 months learning how to use the tool, rather than, oh, here's the tool. Just like when you pick up a digital phone these days, they're so intuitive, people, within a matter of seconds have it working. Your digital experience should be very similar in nature to them. So the faster they can get access to the tool and start using it, the more effective and efficient they're going to be. Content, rapid creation, and custom delivery, is very critical. We are still driven by content and data, and it's got to be flexible and expandable models that are going to continue to grow and give tools that are either already common and in place with your users and the creators of this information, or are intuitive enough for them to immediately pick up, but also support what are the tools of tomorrow that they're going to be moving to and utilizing. So, that is definitely an aspect that you want to look at, for that experience. And, transformation from how we did things in previous times to what we're doing now, you could probably think of it in 3 common buckets. One is, how do you unify customer experience? How do you transform your operations? And how do you evolve your digital strategy? So it's all about that omni-channel of experience and how to scale it to meet internal and external needs, and how to better engage, a customer to advocate, internal, external partners. How do you better engage with them so that there's a true mind share of information to help drive better business decisions? Because that's why we share information, is to allow people to make decisions. In order to support that, though, you've got to have strong business operations. And one of the downfalls of yesteryear was having siloed information and siloed practices. So how do you bridge that? Well, one way of doing it is through digital experience, to kind of bring all of your business operations together to the people when they need it. And this allows us to start doing things like digitizing that business process. How is information created, shared, approved, which kind of drives to better equipping your workforce. And in order to support all of that kind of building here, evolve your digital strategy. If you have the tools to support, unifying your customer experience and transforming your business operations, it should also help for the acceleration of development. Not just code, but development of strategies and how you're going to share information, and development of what that experience looks like. It's got to be standardized for agility. We talked earlier about some of the legacy portals. You had to do things their way or use their code or their language in order to really make things happen. But by embracing industry recognized standards, you can adopt and change very quickly without having to spend time on specialization. And quite frankly, your digital strategy's got to be ready for the change. 2 years from now, 3 years, even 6 months from now, the way that individuals interact is going to be different. That is a given. The only sure thing in life is change, and we need to be ready for that. So thinking about all of that, Michael, I know you've got a number of customer examples here that you guys have worked with that have kind of taken on building out these strategies and engaging in their experience, not just at the top of the iceberg or what we see on top, but all the way down below. I was wondering if maybe you can kind of walk us through these and point out some of the key artifacts from that.
Yes, absolutely. And thank you, Troy, for kind of giving us the background for digital transformation. I echo everything that Troy has talked about. You've heard him talk about how digital transformation really is all about experience and engagement, and that's a solid truth with regards to how we do business today. And as Troy has mentioned, audiences and the consumers of content span across the realms of customers, prospects, partners, employees. It's really any audience that you engage with. And you kind of think about the world that Troy mentioned today that we live in with digital consumption of content, whether it's on our phones, whether it's on our tablets, even to the point of consuming digital content at gas stations. At some point, that's going to be on our microwaves, our refrigerators, our laundry machines, etc. The world is moving towards delivering content, and what are the tools that are available? What are the strategies to help you to have the greatest impact? We did pick out a couple of case studies today. They span across a multitude of verticals and different use cases, but I think that as we kind of talk through them, you'll see that the key problems and challenges that each of these companies have tried to solve are fairly similar. Troy, can you advance to the next slide, please?
Sure. There you go.
All right, so the first one I want to talk about is Hearst. As everyone knows who Hearst is, it's a large media company. It's global, diversified media company that services they have over 360 businesses within their umbrella of corporations. Back in 2017, they were going through a challenge of how to unify the way that their different companies communicate with each other, and they decided to build out a new intranet. It was debuted back in 2017, 2018 timeframe, and what they were looking for were the ability to use the most modern development tools, the most modern development processes to build out a very modern look and feel, engaging type of interface for their different companies to use that would invite people to use it and drive engagement. So they wound up leveraging the core capabilities of LifeRay to deliver basically a comprehensive employee portal experience. They have about 14,000 employees globally. But they are able to provide information tailored to the individual business units and office locations across all of their various offices, and they did that by leveraging LifeRay's DXP product. In terms of personalization, there's lots of different ways that you can personalize content within LifeRay, within the LifeRay platform, everything from static hard-code permissioning all the way to dynamic ways of personalizing content based on users' characteristics, their attributes, their behavior, etc. What Hearst chose to do was to build a custom permissioning system on their applications that are central to individual employee job functions. They integrated their company-wide platforms into their quote-unquote their My Hearst platform as a unified source for all essential workflow announcements, et cetera, to communications to all Hearst employees. They built out they also kind of bundled in customizable components for each employee so that each individual user could have some say over how a particular landing page looked, how they built out their bookmarks, how they customized different components based on their permissions. So a very interesting use case of how Hearst was able to leverage the LifeRay platform to deliver this modern, world-class way of driving internal engagement within their company. Next slide, please, Troy.
Okay.
Okay, so Domino's, everybody knows who Domino's is. Obviously, a very, very different type of company than Hearst, but they faced a lot of the same types of challenges. They had a very complex issue of needing to communicate between their corporate offices with all of their franchisees, their store members. Every street corner has a Domino's. How do you communicate things like pricing, ingredients, campaigns, specials, any kind of information coming from a corporate headquarters to various locations? And of course, as you know, Domino's has many, 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 many locations. So that was their challenge. What LifeRay's DXP allowed Domino's team to do was they created a brand new intranet, obviously with a kind of a modern look and feel. Again, if you think about the typical Domino's employee, generally they're the younger folks starting out in their careers, maybe in college, maybe in high school. So definitely they needed to build a platform that was engaging to those types of that type of an audience, right? That they would use, that they would leverage. So what they wound up doing was they they built a way for franchise team members to get user-specific experiences with 3 different homepages, basically a store, a franchisee or a corporate page. Each site was designed for each group that it described, allowing content to be more relevant for each user. Again, the whole personalization, the whole contextualized delivery that we've been talking about. How do you get content to the right person at the right time within the right context, right? Permissions can be set to be site-specific. They allow Domino's to share confidential information securely, for instance, pricing information, et cetera, to managers, depending on the particular role of the person, the franchise model, et cetera. The platform also allowed Domino's to create additional features of the site to leverage things like social sharing, the option to do subscriptions, to leverage social sharing around their franchisees and team members to share photos, posts just like they would on Facebook. So again, a form of gamification within the internet that allowed participation and of course engagement, right? Again, thinking back to what a typical Domino's store team member is, it was a really fun and interactive way that they built out to allow their team members to interact with each other. They also introduced a new subscription-based news tool that allowed users to pick what kind of content they wanted to be notified about. They used LifeRay to create categories, permissions to make this type of service available and possible. And of course, they built all this out with a customizable dashboard, a messaging system, etc., for user-specific information. So again, a very, very different company than Hearst, but as I'm kind of talking through it, you can see some of the challenges that they're trying to solve are very similar. Troy, can you go to the next slide? Thank you, sir. West Bend Mutual Insurance. This is a fairly recent implementation that we've done. If you can take a look very closely at their, oops, I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm sorry. Let me talk about SHOT. My slides are a little bit out of order here. But SHOT is a European company. They're one of the leading international technology groups that create specialty glass and glass ceramics. So anything from household appliances to pharmaceutical needs to electronics like microscopes, etc., to optics like binoculars, camera lenses, as well as transportation sectors. So one of the things that they were trying to do was, again, they have multiple businesses across multiple regions in EMEA, in Northern Europe. And they were faced with the challenge of trying to break down those barriers to allow their team members and their individual business users to communicate. They had an old internet solution. It was starting to fade a little bit. It lacked the ability to have any interaction functionalities. So the interesting thing about SHOT, first of all, they had a ton of legacy information that needed to be migrated to the new platform. So that would be contents, personal profiles, blogs, social media pieces. There was over 12,000 pieces of data that needed to be migrated that were still relevant to their company as they moved to the new platform. So they were able to use some of the import-export functionalities within LifeRay to very quickly bring some of that stuff over into LifeRay and then redeploy it and reuse it. So that saved them a lot of time in terms of having to recreate a lot of that. One of the things that they did was they did an internal bake-off, so to speak, within the company as they were evaluating platforms. And they divided their company into like 3 different core application areas. So that might be company information, document downloads, collaboration, what they call their SHOT.net section. Each responsible stakeholder within those sections were challenged with, hey, a build or buy decision about how they should move forward. So there's basically three independent groups did their research, did their due diligence, did their evaluation of LifeRay, and after they finished doing all their investigations, they came up with how they could meet their requirements. And essentially, they supported the idea to use LifeRay to build out what they needed to do. Now, the interesting thing about this is after they actually made that implementation decision, they've communicated that they said their ROI was a 60% savings over going out and actually buying a turnkey solution from someone, and their time to market utilizing LifeRate was 3 months. Now, granted that 3 months is a very short time frame for implementation, but nevertheless, this was a company that leveraged LifeRate's ability to have a very easy to use, easy to integrate, easy to implement and develop on to deliver value in the shortest period of time. So today there's over 10,000 members of SHOT that are working worldwide on the new portal. There's about 2,000 people that are exchanging dialogue on a wide range of subjects. They have over 35 communities or microsites, if you will. And really the feedback that we're getting as far as user acceptance is really the emphasis on usability. It's an easy to use, nice looking, streamlined platform. All right, Troy, if you can advance to the next slide, I'll get back on track here with West Bend.
All right, there you go.
All right, West Bend Mutual, as I was saying earlier, a fairly recent customer of ours that, again, used LifeRate to try to build out their needs. There's a screenshot of the dashboard that they use. West Bend is a Wisconsin-based mutual insurance carrier. They're underwriters. They underwrite over $1 billion in premiums annually, and they rely solely upon independent agencies to price and sell policies to end customers. So one of the challenges that they had was the ability to quickly provide tools to their independent agents that more easily sell their products. And they were facing stiff competition from other companies that made it a lot easier to consume and actually purchase from them. So West Bend chose LifeRate DXP primarily for its ability to easily provide dynamic, engaging digital experiences across user segments. As you recall earlier, I spoke about different ways that you can personalize on the LifeRate tool. Using things like static permissioning that's a very fine-grained is one method that LifeRate supports. The more popular method these days is really using a more dynamic method, and the way of creating user segments based on either user attributes of people that users that you know, for instance, or for anonymous users on your site using things like their behavior, their session information, the geo of where they're logging in from, IP addresses, things like that you can collect about a particular user, especially about buying preferences and or browsing preferences. If a user comes onto your site, looks at particular types of content, then you get an idea that based on their behavior, then they must be interested or may be interested in X, Y, and Z, and LifeRate can automatically serve up that content to them. So that's one of the things that West Bend leveraged within LifeRate is our personalization engine, what we call audience targeting. So instead of relying on user experience designed for back-end office and underwriters, West Bend instead designed a streamlined quoting interface as the core of what they're calling their agent portal. So using the new quoting interface, with the integration to their policy management system, they were able to reduce quoting time for a single line of business policies to less than 45 seconds. And then, of course, for their complex multi-line policies to under 5 minutes, which was a huge change from the way they used to take that, which was over 30 minutes to create a quote. So, of course, in order to stay competitive, and this speaks to products and platforms like LifeRate DXP and how it can directly impact your bottom line. The last example I talked about at SHOT was 60% savings in their efficiencies and time to market. In this example in West Bend, getting their quoting from 30 minutes down to 5 minutes increased their competitive advantage with their competitors in the field. Obviously, the world of insurance is going through a massive transformation right now, and you'll see this in the way that even we individually consume insurance products, from your car insurance with companies like e-insurance coming on the scene, even traditional companies like Geico getting to the point of making it very, very easy to do business with them. So one of the things that West Bend did was take on that challenge. They leveraged a LifeRate DXP to completely revamp their entire agent experience. So before West Bend, the agent portal was launched, approximately 13% of their quotes were completed online. Everything else was paper and phone calls. Since the release of their new agent platform, they bumped that up to 75% of their quotes being created online. That's as of April 2019. Of course, that's growing as adoption for this platform continues to grow. I have one last one for you. I hope I'm not putting you to sleep. Troy, if you'll advance to the next slide.
Yeah, no, and that increase 75%, I think is a true testament of digital transformation. They have completely transformed their business by embracing, what digital experience and digital transformation can do for them.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the caveat here is the understanding that digital transformation is not a destination, but digital transformation really is a journey. And if you kind of think about it, digital transformation began with, with the original PC, right? As we moved our business processes and our activities to the digital realm. There's a lot of analysts out there that a lot of confusion in the market right now about what digital transformation really is. And the way that LifeRay looks at it, we're less concerned about having a kind of a bookended definition of what digital transformation is. We're more interested in finding out what your challenges are as a business right now of staying competitive, and what the right tools that you need to help you achieve the revenue falling to your bottom line, and also to achieve your efficiencies and engage your customers in a more modern and efficient way. So the last case study that I have here is CNO Financial, a financial services company based out of Indianapolis. And they provide insurance products to over 4 million customers. They're not huge, but they're not small either. You may know them primarily as Colonial Penn. That's their brand of the CNO Group. So what they've done was taken to delivering omni-channel experiences for agent and customers. The idea of omni-channel, multi-channel is the idea that we consume digital content across multiple devices today. Nobody leaves their house without a cell phone in the pocket. Nobody gets into an airplane without an iPad or a laptop, or sometimes both. I travel with both. Actually all three if you count my cell phone, but that's the way most people work and live and consume information these days. So tools like LifeRay need to be able to unify that experience across all those different technology platforms. So when I'm doing something on my cell phone and I'm looking on, say, for instance, my Amazon app, that information has to carry over to when I pick up my laptop, and whatever I put in my cart has to already be there on my laptop as well. So the experience has to follow me across all my different channels. So this is what we're talking about when we talk about omni-channel or multi-channel. It's not simply enough to have a unified look and feel across all those channels. It's not simply good enough to be able to pick up your phone and browse a website that looks fine and presents itself well on a cell phone as well as a tablet and also the web. But multi-channel has gone way beyond that. It's where it's at right now is the ability to remember what you're doing on each device as you move through your working day or your personal day, moving from device to device, because we consume content across all these devices all day long. None of us are stuck with one single device. So session information, passing information on, if you can imagine starting an application for a bank loan on your desktop and needing to walk out the door, and you're standing in line at the pharmacy, you pick out your phone, you log into your banking app, and it remembers everything that you filled out, and you can pick up where you left off. Things like that are where we see multi-channel and omni-channel being having the biggest impact in the terms of real value. So that's one of the things that Colonial Penn did. They needed to have a multi-channel experience for their agents and customers. They needed to deliver tools that included a responsive .com site that allowed their content to be displayed equally as well on iPads for their
Michael, I think we just lost your audio. Yep, I think we did lose audio from Michael. So we'll go ahead, and if Michael comes back, we'll let him finish up. But, you've seen a lot of information from Michael, and heard a lot about how other organizations have been, going through that channel and really making it. So, in their digital transformation path. And I like what Michael said. Digital transformation is not the end of the road. It's really that journey that you're on. And so let's take a moment to think about what do you need to know. And again, if you are in a situation where you've got a legacy application and you're looking to engage in digital transformation or adopt a digital experience platform, we wanted to take a moment to kind of break that down for you. So legacy applications, if you already have those in-house, the pro is, in most cases, you can upgrade in place. But there's a lot of negative, and we've already talked about a lot of this. I'm not going to spend too much time, but the lack of roadmap or extension of functionality and capability to really help you along that journey that Mike was talking about, it just isn't there. And quite often, the legacy portals are trying to figure out their strategy and how they're going to come about the digital experience. So quite often, you're having to change platforms, or you're having to move off of proprietary code, which can be expensive. However, one reason to stay on a legacy is if you have a high familiarity investment in legacy system. But that can also be a little misleading, because the reality is, with something like LifeRate, that really focuses on digital experience and a complete and open system, just saying that you have the investment in legacy systems really isn't the case anymore. As a matter of fact, we've been looking at, for those of you who are familiar with the Oracle portals and their suite of products, how do you take the existing ADF code that you may have written and very easily transport that into LifeRate, almost like a lift and shift of the code and functionality you wrote in Web Center Portal from Oracle, and move it into LifeRate so that you can hit the ground running even faster. Move into a digital experience platform like LifeRate just has a huge stack of pros. A lot of these we've already been talking about today. From them being recognized as digital experience leader for quite a long time now, to a complete solution to help you on your journey for digital transformation. Some people may see it as, I'm going to a new technology platform as a con. But when you look at it, it really isn't, because LifeRate is designed to allow you to use any type of development framework that you are already familiar with to include. And as I just mentioned, some people may say, I've got to rewrite my portals, or I've got to reconfigure those in order to make those work. Well, in cases where you have existing portlets or code item, quite often there's a way that you can bring those over and incorporate it and reuse some of that legacy knowledge and expertise that you had created in recent times. So, it boils down to, you got to be able to support your business. And quite honestly, you've got to have something that is priced right, it's flexible, and really increases your speed to deployment. And the vendor that you're working with, it's got to be transparent. They have to be able to show you what's happening, down the road, so that you can continue that journey. You're not going to put it in and be done at the end of the day. No, your business is going to continue to grow, and you want to make sure that this digital experience is going to grow with you throughout that life cycle of the journey. So a lot of times people say, how do I get there? How do I get started? And, we all have our commercials, and TechStream in particular has been doing this for many years with a lot of different technologies to help people, discover what the path is. And one of the things we found is doing an analysis and high-level design up front before you touch the first piece of technology is a great way to set the stage for what that journey is. What does your destination look like, and what kind of car are you going to get into in order to start that trip? And so we really look at kind of three levels of this. The first is discover, kind of like the the anatomy of success. That's what this is talking about, is taking a look at what you need to do from a business, what are the gaps, what's missing, and then lay that out, define it, taking all the requirements and prioritizing those based upon, what's the business value you're going to get, what is your business readiness, which a lot of times people forget, hey, I got this great idea, but it's going to take me 6 months to retool my people in order to do it. Do you do that now or do you do that later? And then finally, what's the technical simplicity? Coming out of that is to put together a high-level design so people understand what the concept is. It's something tangible that they can say, aha, I get it. And now, with all of being armed with that, you can plan for, what are the milestones, what are the engagements that you do moving forward with that. So with that, TekStream is pretty set up to really support you across the board, from choosing the right software and helping you purchase and acquire, and then services to actually take whatever the technology is and implement it using things like our QuickStream or our lifecycle assistance. And then quite often, even after the fact, being able to support the implementation as you're moving forward. And then quite often people will say, you know what, it's great, we love having you in and working with us, but the reality is I don't want to keep coming back to you every single time. I need my own people, whether that's for a digital experience, a digital transformation engagement, or some other element within your organization around IT. TekStream can help you with the sourcing and the staffing for that. So, Michael, if your audio is back, could you give me a quick shout? No? Okay, I think may still be having some audio issues with Michael. So I'll give a commercial for digital, for LiveRay. And as we talked about throughout the bulk of this, it really is designed to carry you on that journey. And at the center of it is the digital experience platform, which really allows you to do all these things and facilitate the use cases that Michael had gone through. You have two options with that. You can go the traditional on-premise route. And when I say on-premise, basically you have the software, you install it, and you manage it. It doesn't necessarily mean on-premise. It could be on AWS, it could be in Azure, it could be on Oracle's cloud, it could be on a private cloud or a data center local. It doesn't really matter. But LiveRay also has a DXP cloud. So maybe you want to go the approach where you don't want to have to worry about maintaining it on the back end. You want somebody else to do everything, kind of a white glove, if you will, and you just want to have a platform that you can go in and make your own without having to manage everything behind the scenes. Well, that's definitely an option, and a very valid one with the DXP cloud. They're the experts at the technology. They know what it takes to run it. They have it running up in a cloud and be able to spin it up, and you can take total control and management of from the platform layer up and not have to worry about everything behind the scenes. Also, in addition to this, they have things like e-commerce options for B2B and analytics cloud, which are really good. So, Michael, looks like you're back on.
Yeah, sorry about that. I'm having rolling brownouts here in my neighborhood for some reason. Apologize for dropping.
No problem. I was just trying to give a little bit on LiveRay. I talked about digital experience and the DXP cloud, the e-commerce focus for B2B and analytics cloud, and just want to give you an opportunity. Any other salient points about LiveRay that people should be thinking about as they're either looking at moving from portals into digital experience, or they're starting their digital experience or digital transformation journey? How could LiveRay be a part of that for them?
Yeah, absolutely. And I heard you talk a little bit about some of our products. I think one of the value props that we like to talk about LifeRay is the fact that all of our growth and our whole product portfolio has been organically grown. So we did not acquire a commerce technology, acquire analytics technology, and try to bolt that onto our core product, as many of our competitors have done. I'm sure that many people on this call may have been have experienced kind of the challenges of buying a solution that that has been grown through acquisition, and some of the challenges that come with that, the hard coding, the wiring, the plumbing, etc. LifeRay, on the other hand, everything that we've built across our portfolio has been built with the purpose of enhancing our core product, which is the digital experience platform. That's the meat and potatoes, if you will, of our platform that is inclusive of all the portal technology that we've talked about and the advantages of leveraging a horizontal platform, as well as the contextualized delivery that we've been talking about throughout this whole conversation today, about being able to reach those digital touch points where the human digital interface happens, across all channels, be it web, be it mobile, be it tablet, be it kiosk, be it IoT, and then be able to have kind of that magic happening of contextualizing the delivery of that content to those touch points, so that the consumers of that content are getting, again, the right content at the right time, the right context. So the DXP Cloud essentially is taking our platform and providing a platform in a platform as a service bundle. So it's not a SaaS product. It's not a pure SaaS product. It's really a true platform as a service where we're providing value of not just simply hosting the DXP platform for you, but also managing all of the DevOps, managing all of the infrastructure for you, so that cost gets offloaded from you, and it's no longer a cost center for you where you're necessarily hiring sysadmins, infrastructure people to manage and maintain. LifeRay is doing all of that for you, everything from installing patches to maintaining updates, upgrades, etc., migrations, etc., to the value adds that we bundle around this offering. Things like Dynatrace monitoring, things like Elasticsearch embedded in the product, things like Jenkins servers for your software development lifecycle management. These are all things that we provide as part of the DXP Cloud platform, auto scaling, etc. That make it a lot easier for you to focus purely on your applications and on your solution, as opposed to be worrying about plumbing, infrastructure, etc. Our commerce product is built to take advantage and leverage the LifeRay digital experience platform. So typically in the B2B world, the demand, as we see the market evolving, is that even for B2B buyers, they're looking for a more B2C experience. They're looking for a more Amazon-like experience, whether it's ordering raw steel, or it's ordering cases of toilet paper for your company. The demand is really more for a more modern interface, the ability to have images, the ability to have predictive suggestions, things like that. And LifeRay's commerce fulfills that gap by building a fairly lightweight commerce platform. It's not a heavy middleware piece like a Hybris or something like that, but rather it is a lightweight commerce platform really designed from ground up to be a B2B tool, leveraging things like the personalization piece from our DXP, our content management authoring, and the digital asset management from our DXP, such as images stored, web content being written, etc. And then finally, the final piece that kind of caps everything off is our analytics product, which is it is a SaaS-based product. It is a cloud-based analytics tool that allows you to gain insight into your whole digital experience platform ecosystem to see what your users are actually doing. How are they interacting with content that you've created, how it gives you the ability to do A/B testing, to figure out whether a particular campaign is working, a particular strategy is working, to provide user experience testing, if you will, on a much larger scale, and allow you to gain enough insights to then predictively respond to your audience in a way that anticipates what their next step is, what their next need is. So that those are a couple of things to think about when you're looking at a product like LifeRay. So I will also say that in general, as you engage and when you start on your digital transformation journey, is to not get caught up in too much of the hype surrounding digital transformation. There's a lot of urgency around digital transformation in the market. In some ways, that urgency is created by some of the analysts and the leading pundits, if you will, around about the need for digital transformation. What I would say to anyone that is looking at improving your processes is to kind of pare it down to what your needs are. Every company, every industry, every business has challenges, has business challenges. And if you take away all the fancy words and all the wrappings, if you will, and all the bells and whistles, at the end of the day, digital transformation is about solving those business challenges. So if you approach it from that perspective, and what your needs are today is, hey, I need to engage better with my customers, right? Or I need to increase my customer sat or my net promoter scores, or I need to have a better employee engagement so that my employees in my company are more productive, have information faster, have information in a more broad fashion that's personalized to their role. If these are the problems that you're trying to solve, I think that taking a look at a company like LifeRay and a company like TekStream to help you solve those problems is the way to go. And we can help you break that down into easy to digest chunks. Nobody's going to solve the quote-unquote digital transformation problem with one product or one implementation or one initiative, but rather it's kind of going and evolving as your business needs are changing and addressing those as you go, but also at the same time investing in a platform that can scale with you, that has the flexibility, as Troy mentioned earlier, to evolve your digital strategy. So you're not locked into a single vendor, you're not locked into a single technology, but rather you've chosen a platform that is open enough that allows you the flexibility to choose whatever best of breed particular technologies downstream that makes the most sense for your company.
Excellent. So, Michael, I know we want to leave time for maybe a couple of questions, and it looks like we do have some already in the chat. So if you do have a question from the interface, you can type and ask away, and we will get to those. So the one that we have is, will this webinar recording be available for viewing on demand? Yes, absolutely. So you'll be receiving a follow-up email with a link to the webinar so that you can go and view it later. I believe we'll probably have some links on social media or different ways that you can get to that. And I did have another question for you, and this kind of goes back to an example that you had with one that you walked through, Michael. And the question is, what is the average time start to finish for an application like this? And I'll give our take on it, but would also like to have yours. So in general, I know you said 3 months was kind of an anomaly for the one engagement that you had. It really depends on what you're trying to accomplish and what the goals are. We've seen implementations like this really start at 4 months or so to they never end. And the way that you control that is to do it in a phased approach. So here's our first release. This is what we want to accomplish, so that you're not waiting to the end of the project to get success. You're getting success incrementally. And so our responsibility is do it in phased approaches where you may have a 3-month phase, followed by another 3-month phase, where you build a foundation and start to increase and grow. So if you were to hold me to it and say, well, I get that, but I want to start beginning to end. Again, it depends. It could be 3 months, it could be 8 months. And, that's one of the things that we like to work with you on, is to establish that plan so that you can get success far quicker and get value as you're looking for what's the next rollout and stage. Because a lot of things now, like your phones, you're getting new updates on a quarterly basis, sometimes on a monthly basis, where, oh wow, this just came out as something new and you didn't have that 2 months ago. Users expect that. And so that's kind of the approach we take. But Michael, what are you seeing with that as well?
I think you touched on some key points there. The answer to that question, unfortunately, is it depends, right? It depends on what your goals are. So, like what Troy was talking about with TekStream, we've seen implementations, as mentioned, as fast as 3 months, even less than that. I mean, you can use out-of-the-box LifeRay functionality with minimal configuration and have an intranet set up and ready to go, simply adding users, importing your users from an LDAP or an Active Directory, and have it up within a couple of weeks. Now, if you want, if you want custom navigation, if you want, a particular look and feel that is in accordance with your corporate governance, et cetera, then that obviously adds more effort into it. Now, we make it very easy to do that, but the way that I tend to answer this question is, if you look at, from what we've seen over the years, talking to our customers, if you look at tools, traditional tools, be it from some of our competitors, IBM, Oracle, Adobe, the usual suspects, right? The way that LifeRay was designed from the ground up was to make it as easy as possible and as quick as possible for you to gain value out of that from the get-go, out of the gate. So I would say that on average, we're probably around 60 to 70% faster than a competitive or comparative tool. Now, of course, if you're going to ask me, give me examples, it's hard for me to do that without kind of getting into the bowels of how typical implementations do. But I'll kind of go back and leave you with one anecdote that I can think of. Back when I was carrying a bag and I was selling, one of my big sales was a large bank in the Southeast, and we went in there. By the time we got involved, there was another fairly well-known competitive product that had already been doing a POC within that particular bank, and they were about 3 or 4 months in, a couple $100,000 in on the POC, and the POC failed to do what they needed to do. Now, it just so happened there were some developers that were embedded in that bank that knew about LifeRay, and basically they downloaded one of our trials, and they had the POC completed within 2 weeks that fulfilled all the functionality that was originally required. Now, is that going to be the case in every situation? No. There are situations where LifeRay, that we've done implementations that have taken us 18 months to finally roll out. Now, why did it take that long? Obviously, the usual suspects, scope creep, different stakeholders looking for different outcomes, all those things that, not well thought out architecture, not well thought out business objectives when you start an implementation. And again, these are all things that a company like TekStream and Troy's company can help you map out beforehand. You plot that whole thing out, figure out, look, what's my minimum viable product look like? What are the milestones it takes to reach that? What are the outcomes of that, reaching that MVP? What are the next steps after that? What does phase 2 look like? Phase 3 look like? So that helps you in terms of managing your cost. It helps you in terms of managing your deliverables to your stakeholders internally, and it helps you manage the expectations of what your company can expect from an endeavor like implementing LifeRay. I don't know if that helps answer the question or not, but that's what I have to say about it.
No, I think that's perfect. Every situation is different. Every journey and path is unique, and you just have to keep that in mind. Just like every business problem, while there are similarities, your business problem is going to be very particular to your industry, and the approach that you need to take to meet all of your various objectives are going to be different from even your competitor or somebody in a similar industry. And all of that goes into that equation of how long does it take to do things. So we are out of time. Please feel free to reach out to both TekStream and LifeRay. For TekStream, you can reach us at 844-TekStream, TekStrm is the phone number, or if you're like me and hate finding the letters on the keyboard because your cell phones don't do that so well these days, you can also reach us direct at 678-708-4900. You can always email us at info@tekstream.com, or you go to our website at tekstream.com. And for LifeRay, Michael, you want to give some ways that they could reach out to you? We've got the info@liferay.com and the liferay.com web, but is there a good number they should be reaching out to?
Yeah, absolutely. We have one of those crazy numbers too. I have to look it up every time I dial it. It's 1-877-LifeRay, Liferay. Unfortunately, I don't know off the top of my head what those numbers are. I'm not sure why people still do that, but that's one way of reaching us. Or our website has a number of different ways of interacting with us. We have a chat function if you just want to have some questions answered. There's a number of forms that you can reach out if you wanted to have someone from sales contact you, or if you have a technical question, etc. There's a contact us button that you can fill out that form. There are also various ways that you can request a demo, request a trial if you want to kick the tires a little bit. So probably the best bet is at liferay.com and choose your method of how you would like to be, like for us to reach out to you.
Perfect. And of course, this is all about social media these days. Feel free to reach us out on LinkedIn, TekStream, or LifeRay on LinkedIn, and the same for Facebook. We'd love to hear from you and see how we can help you on your digital journey. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Michael, it's been a pleasure. As always, thank you for joining us today. And we hope the rest of you have a great week, and we'll be talking to you soon.
Yep, thank you, everyone. Thanks, Troy.